All right. There. That's my chair. My chair. All right, fine. Here, we'll just scooch that one over and that one's for you.
Okay. All right.
Oh my goodness. All right. Hello, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Let's see, all chats. All right. Oh, thank you so much for joining us, Ian. So happy to have you here.
Good to have you here, friend. Good to have you here. Hope things are going well on your end.
Definitely.
That'd be fantastic.
Yes, amazing. So I thought I'd start us off with just a couple of, introductory, get to know us kind of questions.
Sure.
First of all, if you haven't joined us before, I'm Leah. Oh, hello from England. Hello.
Hi, UK. Fellow UK people.
Yeah, that's amazing.
See, I'm only an honorary Canadian. I was actually born in Lancashire. Came here when I was a couple of years old with my parents. So
Yeah.
it's like when I went back to the Falconry Festival in 2009, I was the honorary Canadian, the only Canadian that showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had to joke with people that I'm sort of the honorary Canadian because I'm actually British. So.
Yeah. On Instagram, we actually have a hello, Joe. Hello, Kevin. Hello,
Hi,
Cody.
Kevin.
Hello.
Hi, Cody.
Hello, Joe. Greetings from Wisconsin. Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, hi.
Your
Hi.
weather must be similar to ours because it is freezing out here. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, hello. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hi.
You're from Kent,
From Kent,
England.
Garden of England.
Paris all getting rid of all the wildlife.
Oh, wow.
That happens.
Hi from the USA.
Amazing. Hello. Excellent. So yeah, we are up in British Columbia here, so it's really cold. We haven't been doing too much flying. Oh, Bennett from Alaska.
Bennett,
So
hi.
again, your weather must be similar to ours.
Yeah.
It's very cold. So
Yeah.
today it's warmed up a whole bunch.
Yep.
And that's really nice. But
Yeah, we've come through a serious cold snap here. What have we got? I wish I had your weather. Well, you wish you had our cold weather. Where are you?
We're negative 30.
Well, we were.
A couple
Today
days
we're actually just at 0, which is just a blessing. Seriously.
Yeah, definitely. So
Seriously.
we can have the Falcons out. And we just finished up coping Mojave's Beak.
And
so
he
we'll
needed
have a
it.
little video coming about
Yeah.
a couple weeks time. And okay, so Oregon, Sophie
Emerald
from
Isle. Hello.
Amazing.
I am actually, my ancestry is half Irish, half Scottish. So, hello.
Negative 30 there too, Bennett. Birds are just sitting. Jurors loving it. Yes.
Yeah, the jury.
Yeah. Shrocko and Halo are all smiles.
Yeah.
Pfeiffer's
Not so happy.
not enjoying it, definitely. Perry from Norwich. Nice to see you.
Norwich, yeah.
Majid, hi from the UK. Richard,
Hi,
how are you?
Hi.
So I'm from Vancouver actually, and I fly up every couple months to come see Joe. It's about a 6-hour trek, and if Air Canada has something to say about it, then it's a little bit longer sometimes.
Yeah, like the other day.
Yeah, just getting everything deplaned, and then the de-icing machine fell on the airplane.
Yeah, the de-icing machine had a tantrum and fell apart.
It was not.
It was trying to kill the plane. I don't
Yeah.
know. There's something personal going on there.
Very, it's a long story.
What do you hunt in Vancouver?
A true Celt. Yeah.
Yes, a true kilt.
Yes.
A true kilt.
So we don't hunt in Vancouver, but do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's because we work primarily in film and television.
Let's see.
Do you have a bird of your own?
I don't. No. Since I live in downtown Vancouver, it would be a little bit difficult to house them on a balcony or somewhere local.
Hello from Kentucky. Hi, Kentucky.
And I also have a full-time job that I work at a law firm in Vancouver, and so I just don't have time. So always nice to come up here and just get away and spend some time with Joe and Team Feathers. I never want it to end.
We don't want it to end either.
No.
We don't want it to end either. So,
Yes,
getting back to our question. So,
Yeah.
because we work primarily in film and television, for us to teach the feathers to hunt, which wouldn't be hard to convert them over at all. It really is this among the easiest things to do because you're just working to their wiring, their own ancestry. Because of that, we can imagine now if any one of you were a director and you've paid me a fair chunk of change to prepare the feathered ones for a performance, for something, and let's say it's Mojave and he's been taught to hunt squirrels, right? Do this really neat shot, the actor's been working with him, we've spent the time, everything's perfect, he knows what he's supposed to do. We get there on the day and we're at this set in a forest and he sees a squirrel running up a tree and he goes, I could eat. Bam, off he goes. So now I got to get charging over there. I'm not going to save the squirrel. That's not going to happen. But I got to get over there and try to persuade Mojave to surrender what he has procured for his own lunch that day, and hope that he hasn't ingested enough of it that he's just not going to feel like working now. He's not focused anymore. And now you as the director are really mad at me because we've got this set. We've got anywhere from 15 to 200 people that are on the set as crew. And it's ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. When you're doing film and television work, everything costs every minute. Mm-hmm. So now all these people are being paid, and we're not going to get the shot that we prepared for. At some point in the future, I have debated the idea of having a feathered companion who would be a hunting companion, and
definitely.
to go through that experience and to understand and inculcate that experience as part of my own understanding and the arc of my personal progression. I have been involved in hunts, falconry hunts, with other people's feathered companions, and primarily it was rabbit hunting, both on Vancouver Island and the UK. And I've been a part of that experience, so I've had that sort of introduction and anticipation in sort of a more traditional interpretation of the art. But team feathers are not being encouraged for hunting behaviors because we work with the public, we educate, and primarily our main focus and interest is film and television work. So these are highly socialized animal actors who produce that level of depth to a storyline that only a living being can do. CGI is amazing. I mean, animators are doing fantastic things. The closest I've ever seen to a really convincing eagle was in the Assassin's Creed movie. Brilliant, really, really good. Props to the animators of that. They really studied their subject matter before they did it. The truth of the matter is that there is nothing that is ever going to replace a real living wolf dog, a horse, a bird of prey, a dog. And yes, there are some real questionable individuals who are involved in the stewardship of animal actors. And yes, we should be pushing them out and replacing them with people like myself and Kimmy Krause, who is a professional wolf handler out of California, who is a colleague of mine. We are new school animal handlers, and a lot of the stuff that you see from many old school animal handlers really needs the way of the dinosaurs. So you'll never get an argument from me on that regard. That's why we don't hunt with them, and that's why you haven't seen any hunting videos, because that's not our area of focus.
We're primarily focused on the education and the pillars of falconry, and I just want to capture it all into little videos. And let's see here. Oh, we got some chats here.
Okay.
All right, so let's take a look. See, so we answered that one, just about freezing. Where the birds are actually outside.
They're just outside right now
They're
because
on
we're
the-
sitting at 0 degrees Celsius today, and it's
I wonder
wonderful.
if I can
I think
spin this
Leah's going
around.
to try to spin this around so
I
that we
wonder
can
if you
see
can.
the
Okay, well, you can at least see all that is happening right
Yeah.
now. Okay. Super chat. Okay, so thank you so much for your super chat there.
Oh,
That's a super
fantastic!
chat.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
how did you do the Dodge Ram shot?
Oh, wow.
Okay, who is
Wow.
time? Sit down,
Do
grab
you
your
have some
coffee.
time? Because we can
Yes.
do this.
Definitely.
Now, one of the things, interestingly, you guys, I am the answer to this question by saying I am going to show you the process of building a skill for camera. Okay. Once we get rid of most of this snow, there's a planned shot that we want to do with
we've got some
Mojave
big
that's going to be
plans.
really, really cool.
Yeah. Now, if you don't know what we're talking about, basically several years ago, Joanne shot a commercial with Mojave, and he was essentially flying by the camera through the eye of the passenger cargo
Yeah, through the passenger window.
truck. Yeah,
That's right.
So that's what we're talking about
Okay.
here.
And we can find.
Yes, Richard.
What we'll do is we'll put a link to that so that you can go to Productions website and see, and they only shoot commercials. You can see that they've actually kept that in their archive because it's such a popular ad. So, what we did with Mo is we knew that we had a point A to point B, so it's called an A to B shot that we had to do. And we knew that the vehicle would be in motion next to him, moving at a slow pace, but still in motion next to him. So there's a safety aspect to this. And we knew that a second car with what's called a Russian arm mounted on top of the car was going to be sweeping around the front of the truck that you see in the advert. And the Russian arm looks very peculiar. It looks like something from outer space.
Basically, like long tube, and then you have the camera on one end, and then you have an operator who's going up and down with
That's
it.
right, up and down or side to side, doing
But it
whatever.
extends weird,
It
like
looks-
a Pinocchio nose almost.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can find you some pictures of a Russian arm mounted camera, and we'll see if we can find a way to get that to you. So
We'll get to your question.
we knew that was what was going to be involved in the shot. So in order to prepare Mojave, I took a week of preparation time. We started at a very small parking lot that we knew the traffic has to move really, really slow. Farmers market, small farmers market just outside of Duncan on Vancouver Island. We went there and we manned him to the environment first. Walking around.
Getting used to different things.
That's right. And Joey was spending time with him, letting him really, really look at things. And our focus was to find vehicles that had weird things on them. This could be, a bicycle rack. Canoes.
We are in Canada.
A big van, say a panel van that's got ladders or glass or, some kind of weird equipment on it. If we could find a van that had like a wheelchair lift on the back of it, sort of pulled up against the back of the vehicle. Anything like that would look sort of odd, right? And we would spend time letting Mojave look at vehicles like that. And then what we did is we set up, and we had about just 10 feet of line between us. And we just had Mo hop back and forth while vehicles are moving past us, but at a safe distance, right?
So this is basically simulating what he would encounter in a movie set.
That's right.
The big thing on top of a car, all sorts of people moving around and stuff.
That's right.
Hello,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then, over the course of the week, we went to progressively larger and larger parking lots where there's more going on, where there's more weird vehicles to examine and get familiar with and comfortable with. People looking at us, stopping, people gliding by really slow because what are those people doing? And then we would find places in the parking lot where we knew the odd car would go past us, but where we wouldn't get a lot of traffic going past us for safety again, and longer distances, right?
Between yourself and
Between
Joey
myself and Joseph.
having Mojave back and forth.
That's right. So we did this over the course of the week until we got into a really dense parking lot. And a funny story associated with that. We thought, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to fly him on a filament line, so a very a strong fishing line. Well, what do you think happens? The fishing line breaks, and Mo decides he's going to go perch on top of the Coast Capital Savings Building in the Beverly Corners parking lot, right?
Oh my gosh.
Fortunately for us, a nice gentleman from Shaw Cable came along, and I hope he got the gift that we sent him to say thank you. He had one of these little boom mount structures on his van, which allows him to go up and do things with the overhead wiring. And Joey went up with him and just had him step up onto the glove from the top of the roof, and it's like, okay, we're going to end there today because there wasn't any chaos, panic, and disorder.
Yeah.
He simply was just like, no, I like it up here. I want to look around, right?
Very interesting.
So we had that preparation all in place. Now, so on the day, we went up the day ahead to the place that we were going to be filming, which was just outside Lillooet, near the BC Hydro Dam and fish gates for the spawning salmon to go through. And even though there was none at the location that we were going to be filming at, Joey and I spent most of a day on and off just walking Mojave around the parking lot that we were going to be filming the shot in, getting him really familiar with the environment. Mojave was in his glory because Saber wasn't there.
No
Cabal
competing attention.
No competing attention.
He was the star of
It
the
was
show.
Everybody, it was all about him, and he knew it,
We'll get to
right?
your question, yes.
So then on the day, we had Mices. And you've heard me mention a couple of times that Mojave will pretty much do anything for me
cartwheels
if we
for
have
Mices.
Mices. So to kind of illustrate sort of the behind the scenes kind of experience for this, that morning, the morning of the shoot, production crew was there. We had some executive producers on set. It was really interesting because the hawk flying past the truck as part of storyline. The advertising department at RAM was like, yeah, good luck with that. Let us know how that goes, right? But okay, hey, here you go. Here's some money. You see if you can do it for us, right? So, of course, the production crew, everybody was pleasant, but a little cool to us. A little bit sort of, we worked with animal performers before. We've worked with animal handlers before, and to a large extent, Joey and I were prepared for this because, again, we're new school. We come at it from a different perspective, a high level of socialization and preparation before we ever get onto a set, so that when you as the director call action, any one of my guys knows exactly what he's supposed to do. He's ready for it. He's dialed in, right? So that morning, everybody's a little cool to us, and oh, isn't he luscious and everything else? And okay, so then what we did is we had a couple of draw runs, right? Because we had to get the height just right so that Mojave was framed in the passenger side window, as you see in that advertisement. And we had to get the height. Joey and I were on ladders out of shot, and then it was all Mojave coming through as the car with the Russian arm is sweeping along beside the big truck and then to the front of it. Because you notice in that ad, you see him flying beside it, and then the camera shot sweeps around and you see him sort of flying almost towards you, right? Mojave was bulletproof on the day. His weight was at the low end of summertime flying normal.
Which is?
Well, for where he was flying that day was 1,177 grams, right? Anything below that is abusive. But he was lean, he was hard, he was really, really fit for the performance. So 1,177 grams, he's dialed right in, he's really focused on my glove. And I basically said to Joey at the beginning of the day, no matter what, if he wants to come to my glove, let him come to my glove. Just let him come, right? Just let him have that so that he's reassured, I can go there, I can go there, I can go there, all right? So we had a couple of shots where Mo was not quite high enough and they were seeing through the camera, the replay in the car, and he's a little low. And then we have the second AD, the second assistant director came over to us and she was like, yeah, how many more shots do you think we have at this? And I look at Joey from the top of my ladder and he kind of goes, I don't know, what do you think? And I'm like, what, a dozen? He goes, oh yeah, at least. And I go, yeah, we've probably got another dozen cracks at this at least. And she's like, really? And I'm like, oh yeah, he's dialed in. He's ready to go. We're just, we're at your disposal here. We'll just tease this in until we get it exactly where you want it. She's like, oh. She goes running back over to the camera car where the director is with the first AD. And I guess this got conveyed and there was much joy and celebration that there was lots of room, that there's no rush, we're not crushed, he's not got so much food on board that he's not going to be focused, right? So by the time we got to about I think it was the third or fourth take, we got it, right? We got the shot that we were looking for. Because remember, a hawk, when they fly, they want to scoop down and use ground effect to sort of cushion themselves and glide along on top of this little invisible cushion of it. So what we needed, the last little tidbit on the day that Mojave was being shown and asked for was like, no, sweetheart, we don't want you to do this. We just want you to come basically straight across to me, right? And by the fourth pass, he had it. He was like, oh, you just want me to come there. You don't want me to do this. And it was like, yeah, okay, you got her. So we got about 3-4 takes of him doing the exact shot that they wanted him to do, framed in the passenger side window. and everybody was thrilled. And then it was about, well, can we get a photograph? Can we get a shot of him flaring into the camera? And I was like, sure. How do you want to do this? So then it was me being on the top of a ladder, and camera being set up inside underneath the ladder, and having him come off of Joey's glove on his ladder, scooping down, and then having to flare up like this to grab my glove. Well, we got the shot, but they never ended up using it, right?
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
they kept us on set for about another hour and a half, 2 hours. All the crew were all around Mojave at this point, and oh, he's so gorgeous, he's so amazing, oh, he's so good. You know, they're just drooling all over him, and he's like, yes.
He loves that energy. He
Yes.
loves being told
You know,
he's pretty.
he loves that. He loves the
Definitely.
attention.
Yeah.
Because like you've heard me say before, when Mo goes onto a set and he sees cameras, he's like, and I did not teach him this. This is just who he is. It's just who he is. He looks around, he goes, oh, I know what this is. And it's literally like somebody flipped a switch.
Yeah. 'Cause
It's
he always
literally.
gets positive reinforcement. He
Yeah.
always gets told he's pretty.
And the attention and
Yeah.
everything else, right? And he feels the vibration, the energy coming from us that you can do this. We know you can do this. It's just like we practiced at home. This is what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
And he was bulletproof on the day. So of course when they wrapped us, now production crew, this executive producer, and she weighed 80 pounds soaking wet. Just this petite, tiny little woman, and she's like, oh my God, he's just so magnificent, and I've never seen anything so beautiful in my life. And you know, the director came over and shook Joey's hand and my hand.
Aw, that's
This doesn't happen. Okay. While we were waiting between takes, we didn't know that they were running a Phantom camera. That's the slow motion camera. So they were running that and a couple of other cameras. And while they were looking at a playback at one point, Joey and I are just calmly waiting and just sort of hanging out. And out of nowhere, the cameraman that's across from me, across the parking lot from me, we love you guys too, you know? You know, David Bauk, the director, or the producer, was fantastic. Ole Peters, who is one of their primary directors over at Means of Production. Lovely, lovely person. We got some photographs of him. I think what we'll do is I'll find those, and then Leah can put them up so that you can
Definitely,
see
I'll pop
them
them
hanging
on
out.
the socials.
Yeah,
Instagram.
yeah, it was a fantastic thing. So it's all about the preparation. It's about having a good sense of your companion when you're in this kind of work. It's like, okay, this is a simple A to B shot. There will be the distraction of a large vehicle flying right next to him, and he flew exactly where they wanted. We weren't well off of the truck. He was close to that moving vehicle, and he was the whole time. The truck would come in, and he was just looking at my glove. He's just like, I'm going there. Boom, right?
Yeah.
He was brilliant on the day, and that's how he always is when he's working. That's the same experience we had when we were in Winnipeg shooting The Loft. When we've done the little cameos that we've done for Richard Olak, our dear friend, for Battle of Bergeldorf, the Battle of Bergeldorf project, which he hopes to release finally this year.
Yeah.
A passion project that's taken years, you guys. So, you know, that's just who Mojave is. And we again, we're using the pillars of falconry to do this. We would not be able to do the work we do were we not following my mentor, Friedrich, his guidance, right? And the mentorships that I've received from.
Oh, hello, Dale.
Hi, Dale. From living masters that I've had the privilege of working with in the last 15 years. So,
All right.
yeah.
Sweet.
So hopefully that
Excellent.
answers your question. I hope that wasn't too windy.
So, predictive weight at 14 today. So he's a really big boy.
He's chubby. Yeah, he's he's
And
quite
Alessandro's
large
going
for a
to say
male.
Good night, Alessandro.
Cheers, Alejandro. See you later.
Oh, your bird's been used in films as well. So Aloft would be the film.
Yes.
And that was Saber, Mojave.
And Yeti, our
And
sacred
Yeti.
falcon, who after that project, she was done.
Perfect.
She
Excellent.
tapped out.
Good to hear.
She's done. I don't want to do this sort of thing anymore. She was just at that age where she's starting to get broody. This is
Yeah,
why I don't
wanting to
work
be a
with a
mummy.
lot of females.
Yeah.
I have worked with some brilliant female raptors. This is not a knock against females. It's just the fact of their biology that when they're a youngster, they're not dialing in their desire to reproduce, but with females particularly, it becomes acute at about 3-4 years of age. They're just like, I want to be a mommy, and that's why we moved my first peregrine on.
All right. So, have we both seen the eagle huntress? Yes.
Yes.
Oh my
Right?
gosh.
Right?
I have.
Is she amazing or what?
That is my life goal, is to meet that beautiful woman.
The Berkut Golden
let's
Eagle. That's something. I actually have connections in Britain that I established when I went to the Falconry Festival in 2009, and they run excursions to Kazakhstan to spend time with the Berkutchi and their feathered companions.
Okay, so let's do some questions.
Okay.
So Richard asked yesterday, he is disabled,
Yes.
and what are some things that he can do and kind of get into with falconry and using his wheelchair?
Well, I guess I'd have a few questions back for you, Richard, which would be,
I'm not sure if he's watching, but
do you
okay.
have use of your upper body? Are you fully mobile with your upper body? Are you using a power-assisted wheelchair? Anything like that? How much mobility do you have in your upper body? How much dexterity do you have in your hands? Being able to walk really isn't a big deal. You can be a static recipient to a bird flying to you or sending a bird out from you. If you were to obtain a feathered one under mentorship, then the guidance would be, or the learning process for you and your feathered one would be a process of him or her just getting used to the fact that you don't stand up like other people do, and she or he is going to accustom themselves to that. But it really depends on how much dexterity and how much physical ability you have in your upper body. So let's assume, for the sake of argument, that you're fully able to hold yourself up, you've got full use of both your arms and hands. Then really it's, if you're in a power-assisted wheelchair, then to sort of guide yourself with your right hand, to drive it with your right hand, and then to be, using your left hand to receive them to the glove and man them. And when you're stopped, of course, you're feeding them on the glove. Any of these things are going to be possible for you. One of the ways that you might step into it from sort of a sideways kind of approach is if you can connected with a local wildlife rehabilitation center. And of course, these are going to be wild beings, because even sitting in your wheelchair, you can cast a bird. You can cast a bird. You can, so that somebody can do coping on them. Somebody can cast a bird for you because you're already seated. You can learn that technique as well. Imping shouldn't be a problem. It would just be done from a seated perspective. Feeding, of course, doesn't really matter if you're standing or if you're sitting down when you're feeding them. None of that is impossible. If you're working with a little owl or perhaps a little Harris, very, very stable bird, very steady bird.
Harris's especially.
For you to have one and to be doing work from, if you have several perches up in your garden space, if you have a nice piece of ground in your backyard, you can set it up and teach them to do point to point, going from perch to perch to perch. And then you could possibly, you and your feathered companion, you could possibly be part of a public display program that a nearby falconry center is involved in, or be an assistant to that. I think there's a lot of things that you could probably do as long as you've got lots of upper body capacity and capability. And this will be good for your fitness as well. You're going to be out in the fresh air. You're going to be breathing and moving. I think I'd need to get a clearer picture of your specific situation, but as depending on what your capabilities are for your upper body, that really you can move at a good pace. You could probably get a Harris hawk following on with you. If you were at a center or something like that. I think that's all entirely possible, especially if you're using a powered wheelchair, a motor-assisted wheelchair. So hopefully that helps you a little bit.
Definitely. Okay, so Cody asked, what's the most interesting bird that you have worked with?
Wow.
I hope you're still watching, Cody.
Oh, Cody, if you're still there.
That's okay. We'll leave it up. We'll leave all this up.
What's the most interesting bird?
Yes.
That would have to be saber.
Yes.
That would have to be saber.
Interesting personality-wise. Oh, hello, Cody. Yes. Okay,
Hi,
good.
Cody.
Yeah. So that's such a huge answer.
Saber,
But
now look, I know he wasn't a little man in a
Yeah.
feather coat. And I used to say to Joseph, to Joey, to Leah, to all my helpers over the years that we had him, I said, Saber makes us lazy.
he was such an angel.
He was,
Full
he
angel.
was, he was
He was a
one in a
three-quarter
million.
Jurseeker Falcon.
But he looked like a gerfalcon.
He looked exactly like a Falcon,
Yeah.
and he had so much charisma and attitude. And basically, what had happened is we nursed him through a really tough and scary situation
When he was young, yeah.
with the illnesses and stuff like that. So there was so much hands-on time that we spent with him, coping his beak and fixing him up, and he had problems with different ears and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So basically, going through this whole experience with him brought us all closer.
Yeah.
And it was such an intense period because we were literally fighting for life.
Yeah.
But
Still,
this
he
earth
left us
in
October
year and a little bit.
2018.
Yes.
Yeah, so just over a year ago.
He was stolen from us way too soon.
Yeah.
But he was definitely the most interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Because of his personality and what we could do with him. And I have some photos, and we just brought him to the craziest situations.
Oh, yeah.
And he loved it.
He was amazing.
Absolutely loved it.
He was, I said at the end when I let everybody know that he had passed away, I said that he was loved in the shape of a falcon. And he definitely was that.
Yeah, definitely.
He was a
little
healer.
feathers had little
His
little
heart, they had hearts on them.
We'll put photos.
Yeah.
soon.
I've got a photograph. Do any of you guys remember the most interesting man in the world as the series for Corona? I think it was Corona Beard.
Corona. Oh, it was.
The really handsome bearded gentleman, and he's
It was not Corona.
yeah.
But
Like
does somebody know?
does somebody know which guy that was? Do you remember?
Little adverts that would run be, I'm such a.
Yeah, I don't drink beer, but when I do,
Yeah.
this particular beer. And I have a photograph of Saber perched on the fountain out in front of the Holiday Inn Express in North Vancouver, and he's holding himself, looking just like that gentleman in those ads. So I called that photograph the world's most interesting falcon, and I'll get that so that you guys can see it,
Yeah.
and you'll know, but you'll just be able to see the attitude and the way that he's holding himself. Is like, yes, I'm all that.
So much attitude. Excellent. Okay, so Otter Clash said, have you worked with owls? What did you say? What were we asking exactly?
Have I worked with owls?
What do you think about owls?
What do I think? I think owls are amazing.
They're awesome.
Owls are incredibly intelligent. They tell you that you'll hear people
And,
saying
yeah,
that they're not
yeah.
that smart, but they are. The thing is, I like to equate it a little bit to, because everybody thought that Einstein was mentally deficient when he was a boy in school. The thing is that his brain was operating on a level that was so far above the stuff he was being presented with in elementary school. It was almost like, well, you want me to play with those toys? That's so silly, that mathematics. It's not even worth my attention. So people just assumed he wasn't all there. So it's a little bit like that with owls, particularly the big ones, right? Everybody says, oh, they're not that smart, they're not that brainy. They actually are. They actually are. The thing is, they've got the attention span of a garden gnome.
Very short.
So, another funny story. My first times, early days, bad actor people, I'll just put it there. That's why I'm not going to even say his name or anything like that. We had a young horned owl that came to us as an imprinted baby. So that means when he hatched out of his egg, as soon as his eyes opened, the first thing he saw was a human being, so he just assumed he was a human being. And he was named Hagrid. And Hagrid was wonderful. The memories I have of playing with him in the garden as a baby, as a helper, raising and teaching him they'll stay with me forever. He was wonderful. And so he was part of a flying display sort of arrangement that this individual was in charge of. And he flew up onto the roof of some mews that sort of backed onto the little flying arena that we worked in. And he's sitting on the back of the mews, and this person I was working for is calling to him, try to get his attention, get him to come down to the glove. And what Hagrid was doing is he'd noticed some seagulls, some gulls, in a thermal way above him in the sky. And he was like, and he's watching, and after a little while he starts swaying like this. And he's just watching them go round and round and studying them and watching them and marveling at them. Meanwhile, the person I'm working for is trying to get his attention. Right? He's getting closer and closer, trying to get him to come down to the glove. Finally, he's standing right just below where the back of this roof comes down, and he yells, "Hagrid!" And Hagrid leaps up into the air and looks at him, and then, of course, because of the reaction the person I was working for, he leaps up into the air. The whole audience is laughing their rear ends off now, right? But it's like, what? You know, like, oh, you want me to come down for that? Okay. So with owls, particularly if you're working with them for a film and television perspective, you got to play to the fact that you know that they've got a very short attention span, so that any kind of training period, any kind of practice period that you're doing in preparation for a shot has to be shorter. But you can have more of them through the day. And it has to be variations of on a theme. So if there's a specific kind of shot that you're going for, you have to make it interesting to keep them focused on what you're asking them to do. So that is the challenge with owls, is their concentration. It's got nothing to do with their intellect or their looks. But I think owls are wonderful. And just a teaser we're going to put out there. I'm working on it. These guys have been working on me for years and years.
I've never worked with an owl. I would love to, from all these stories.
So there's a specific one that we're looking at, and it's indigenous to Canada. They're magnificent. They're beautiful, but I don't want to spoil it. I want to kind of make it a surprise. So,
stay tuned.
So that's the teaser I'm going to put out there.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yes, very good. Okay, so let's see. Charlotte. Oh, hello,
Hi, Charlotte.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. How is the training progress?
Well, we got a big interruption, Charlotte. Everything had been going along really, really nicely.
Fantastic.
We'd had everybody positioned really well. I actually thought we were going to get Halo free flown when we went down to Vancouver Island, but
that episode is coming.
It's coming.
Yep.
He was millimeters from being ready, but because
to free fly.
But because he'd never been to the place that we took him to on Vancouver Island before, there was a high degree of distraction. And it took him, I didn't have another day or two afterwards to get him to that point, but by the time I got him to the day where he was ready out to me on his line, if I'd had another day or two, he would have free flown. There's no question about it. But we're going to get that footage here. Mo has already been free flown. As you've seen, Mojave's been doing some free flying. Then we come back from our trip to Vancouver Island.
And that was the end of December.
Yeah, and then we get nailed with that we've had the last 2-3 weeks, which has been sequential snowstorms. We had one day where 30 centimeters was dropped in less than a day.
I mean, we are in Canada, but it is still.
It just works you. It really does.
Yeah.
So, and the cold. Now, once it gets to more than say -8 below outside at night, they come inside. Bring them inside because we haven't got the Muse heaters installed and running yet. So they have to come inside, and once they come inside, they don't have to shiver to keep themselves warm, so they're not burning off food from the previous day. And so now it becomes this juggling act of keeping their weight at least close. We've popped Mojave up in the last couple of days. It's just happened. Fortunately, Mo and Shirako and Halo will be able to stay out, because all this week it's going to be quite pleasant overnight. Pfeiffer, of course, stays inside anyway, and now we know the reason why. A big part of the reason
And we'll
why.
let you know very soon. That video will go up probably in 2 weeks' time. We have a huge update, because I have seen a couple of you asking about Pfeiffer. Right now he's out in the garden and he is perfectly happy.
So the progress, they're progressing really well, Charlotte. Now that we've got the milder weather again, I can get back to work with Mojave with his free flying.
Yes.
And my guess is, unless we get a really nasty, unpredictable, and of course it's winter time, so whether it gets unpredictable around here, I want to do some winter free flying with Halo and capture that on camera. That's going to be spectacular.
Cool. Yes. Okay, that's okay, Richard. What we'll do for this live stream is we'll leave it up after. So we have the opinion about the owls just a couple minutes ago, and then we have Richard. We answered your questions about the disability and falconry and everything like that. So we'll have those up for you guys to rewatch. Let's see. So we had a couple questions from a couple of people. So Taylor had asked. Now, keeping this a little bit short, but what are some of your tips to get your hawk coming up to the glove when they're a newbie? When they're
new. Okay.
Yeah, very, very new, coming up to the glove. What are some of your tips?
All right. So you've got a youngster, a new feathered companion.
Oh, hello, Hazza.
Okay. First question is, was this an imprint bird, or was this a parent reared, or was it a creche reared? Now, if we're not familiar with the term creche reared, what that means is the first couple of weeks, the youngster is left with his or her parents so that they are not under the illusion that they're a little person in a feather coat. And then the breeder, the falconer who has bred them, takes them away from their parent birds and continues and finishes off the rearing process over the next 2.5 months or so that they are socialized at a very early age to human beings. They still know what they are. They know, I'm a red tail, you're not a red tail, I'm a falcon, I'm an eagle, right, etc. and so on. Imprints, of course, like I've said before, the moment they crack out the egg, a few days later, once those eyes open and they look at you, they go, oh, that's what I am. I am like you, right? And then parent reared, of course, they've been left in a breeding chamber with their parents, usually at least just the female, but in many cases, both the male, the father and mother. And they're taken out at about 3.5 months or so and sent off to somebody like me. And of course, they've never laid eyes on a human being before being grabbed up and put in a transport crate and sent out to somebody like me. Now, if we're going to assume, for the sake of argument, that this is a parent-reared youngster that you've got or are getting, the number one thing, and we can always go back to the master, we can always refer back to Friedrich with this, food must always be there. Always be there. Regardless if they eat it or if they don't. When Sabre came to me, it took 4 days for him to eat anything. Now, of course, he was really fat. He was well fed up before he came to me as a youngster. But he was naturally terrified of me. He didn't know what I was. He'd never seen a human being before being grabbed up and sent out to me. So food was always there, regardless of whether he would eat or not, because the messaging has to be, I will not play Lucy to your Charlie Brown. I'm not going to deny you food, right? Particularly when I know you're frightened. So food is there. So you've got your youngster, let's say he or she is standing up on their bow perch, and as you approach, you start to notice that he's baiting away. It's like, that thing is coming toward me. I don't know what it is. Is it going to eat me? Is it going to hurt me? What's it going to do? Right? Stop where you are as soon as you see that. Turn profile so that you are much narrower. You're just this skinny little thing in space. Wait for him or her to come back up onto the perch. This could take a while. Warning.
Patience.
Could take a while.
Patience.
Have things to think about in your mind that can keep you in a state where you are receptive to this moment. This is a critical space, right? They come back up onto the perch. Out of the corner of your eye, edge toward them a little more. Maybe he bounces off again. Stop. Shampoo, rinse, repeat until you are about 8-10 feet away. Then, as you've seen me do before, you're going to make in. You're going to slowly lower your body down toward the ground, angling away. You're signaling with your body language, I am not here to hurt you. I am not here to intimidate you or dominate you. This space I am entering into with you. Right? And food is prominently obvious on your gauntlet where they can see it. Right? So make in, make in, make in. They jump off again. Stop. Now, if where you are when you stopped, 10-15 minutes go by and your legs are cramping, edge back out away. Right? Edge back out away. Stand up. let the blood flow go back to your knees and your
I've had
ankles,
that happen before.
right? And let him come back up onto the perch. Then again, ease yourself down and move as slowly as you have to, right? You're trying to get into that space, that personal space with him, right? And glove is out. You're looking at them with the corner of your eye, so you're not directly looking at them. You're looking at them from here. Glove is there with the food. And you're saying, you're speaking quietly to them, you're speaking calmly to them. Here is food. Come on, step up. Here is food, right? Now if, after a little while, you're able to edge in, he hasn't bounced off the perch, but he hasn't come to the glove. You're working in. Get your fingers around those dangling jesses, right? Don't do anything yet. Just hold on to the jesses. Here is food. Here is food. And then slowly, gently start to lift them up. So there's that upward pressure because the jess is around their ankles, through the anklets. It's making them need to rise, right? Now at this point, there's a darn good chance he's going to dive off the perch, off your glove. Get him up high enough so he's not going to clobber himself on the perch. Wait. And just be calm. In your mind's eye, you're visualizing the thing that you want them to do. You're visualizing them. You're visualizing, hearing yourself saying, come on up, step up to the glove, step up to the glove. That's the imagery you're pushing toward them. If we're going to go into the woo-woo with purple thing for just a little bit here, I firmly believe that they pick up on our visual imagery. I've just seen too many things happen, done too many things the wrong way myself because I've been in the wrong state of mind and had them react to it, and I've thought to myself, there's only one way that they could be reacting to this. Somehow they're picking up on it. So, you've lifted him up so he can't clobber himself on there. Ultimately, what you want to do is if he keeps dangling, get him untied from the perch, tie him off to the glove, step away, and now you're helping them to step up onto the glove. And he's going to dive away, step up onto the glove. He's going to dive away, step up. On, off. This is going to go on for a while until he gets so tired that he's lying down on your glove.
Mm-hmm. Similar to the
right?
flipper.
Or he stands there reluctantly with his eyeballs as big as saucers looking at you because he's terrified, right? Now if this is a creche-reared bird, it's probably going to go a lot faster, because they're already familiar with being handled by a person before they came to you, right? Of course, if it's an imprint bird, it's come from another falcon or another breeder, they're, again, they know that person means food at that age. You know, there's not really much in the way of relationship that's been established, but you're much more likely to get them standing up readily eating from the glove right away. It's only from your parent-reared birds that you're going to have to really slow down. There's no rush. I keep saying this. Friedrich says it. James says it in his Hood and Hood Making book. You know, there is no rush. And I really want to push back against this with all the mentors that might be watching, with all the really established, you know, multiple decade long experienced masters and stuff. Please take a breath and reconsider this notion that somehow we have to rush to a point where they are ready for this, or we have to rush to a point where they're ready for that. Let's take our time. Let's back away from that and start slowing down and practicing the way that tradition dictates that we ought to be doing it, so that we establish, here's that magic word again, the relationship.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, on that level. On that note, let's answer some questions from our peeps. Let's see. So Cody says, have you ever thought about doing collaborations with videos other falconing YouTubers? So we don't know of anybody in around this area. We're up in the middle of nowhere, British Columbia.
Where we are in British Columbia is where the South Thompson region meets the Caribou.
So
we are
if you
right there.
threw a dart into the middle of British Columbia map, we're basically there.
Yeah.
So I don't know of anybody in this area doing YouTube and doing falconry, but we have done some collaborations. If you look back in our videos, we did one with Jason Kenzie and Michael Downey, and they were amazing. They were so cool.
One thing that I'll say to add to that too, guys, is that again, referencing the fact, new generation, sort of new school animal handling, new school falconry approach, new school traditional school, old school in a way, because I followed the traditional approach. Now, unfortunately, and I've seen enough of this and interacted with enough individuals here in North America to know that there is this strange phenomena that we have to do it different here than the way they've done it in Europe, or the way that it's been done traditionally, or the way that the Kazakhstanis are doing it, or the way that the Ecuadorian falconers are doing it. Mm-hmm. It's really mysterious. Like, it's a mystery to me why this is the case, where this has come from. There is nothing to be gained by trying to reinvent something that is more than 8,000 years old, guys. Mm-hmm. So most of the people that I know of here in Canada, and several that are supposed to know better in the US, that have been doing it for 50, 60 years, that should know better, would probably never collaborate with us because we acknowledge the personhood of our feathered companions. The fact that they are conscious and self-aware is not, it's not debatable for us, and tradition tells us that it's not debatable. But again, we get into this phenomena, this mindset that says it's just a feathered machine that eats, and that's it. And it will do what I want it to do, or I will starve it into compliance. And I cannot be next to that. So the number of people that we could theoretically collaborate with is a very small list.
And we have exciting plans, tentative plans to do some stuff.
Yeah, we've
maybe
got some.
later in the year.
We're going to talk a little bit about that, but teaser.
Okay, let's get some. Okay, so that was Cody. Charlotte, do you have any problems with wild hawks or falcons attacking your trainees?
Not wild hawks or falcons, but an owl went after Scirocco last year.
Yeah.
And what I think happened was I'd just given them their food. There were vacuum cleaner sounds from Mojave and Halo. And so they already dealt with theirs. And I suspect, because it was winter time and it was cold, it was in the middle of winter.
And they're on their perches,
wild
right?
animals, yeah, the feathered ones were out there. And wild beasties of every stripe are really feeling the stress of, where's the food? Where can I find the food? So this owl had been way out across the other side of the pond, because that's the direction he came from. He'd probably been up in a tree watching for quite some time. Scirocco was taking his sweet time eating his lunch. And before we knew where we were at, Brian was at the kitchen sink. We're chatting about something. I'm standing on this side just in front of the door. Brian looks out the window, does a double take, and he's, run! And I'm like, what? Run! Because this owl is already on Scirocco. Okay? He's already on him. So I'm in my stocking feet. It's snow outside. I'm just running.
No time to wait.
I'm like, hey! And the wild owl's like, yeah, I'll be leaving now.
Yeah, time to go.
And off he went, right? And Scirocco's all like, he's all pumped up. He's like,
ah! Beefy guy.
Now, there's a little bit of food there that the owl took off with. Okay, there was something in his talons when he left. Now, for all of that the owl was something in the order of 2.5 times at least Scirocco's size. All Scirocco had for the punch up was a hole in his upper thigh, which bled. He bled for a bit.
He's totally fine now.
Threw some styptic in there, cleaned it all out, threw some styptic in there, let him calm down, and he was fine. So my guess is he gave as good as he got.
Definitely.
He gave as good as he got. That we've never seen the owl back again.
So, UK Falconer, and if you don't mind giving us your name, we'd love to say, have you guys met or worked alongside with Martin Tyner at all? Do we know that?
He's the mounted falconry guy, I believe. Yes?
That's okay. Maybe not.
If he's the person I'm thinking of, I would love to. And teaser.
More teethers.
There's a plan there. That's all I can say right now.
All right. So Populous Revolt says, so strangling falcons is wrong. Whoops. You know,
I have
there
wanted
are
to.
some days.
There are days where you just want to go. That's it.
I'm not actually.
But no,
Alright.
there's days where they test you, and
Yeah.
I'm a human being. I have days where I'm just like, that's it. I'm done. I'm tapping out.
Southwest Wildlife Foundation. Oh no! Oh, we've seen his video.
Yes,
Going
he's
back to
amazing.
Martin Tyner. Yes,
He's amazing. He's amazing.
definitely. We have not met him or interacted with him,
But we would
hey,
love to.
If you,
We'd love to.
yeah.
So the days when you're in a state of frustration or something has pushed you there real quick, no matter what your plans were, no matter what you thought you were going to do that day, just stick a pin in it because it's done. Just let them feed on their perch, leave them alone. Right? Leave them alone. Go and find other things that you need to do, tidying up your toolkit, doing some cleanup, prepping some jesses and anklets, watching your favorite TV show. Just leave it alone. It's better for both of you. Okay?
Definitely. Okay, so let's see, really quickly, what's your opinion on goshawks from Hansa?
Everything that I've never personally worked with one myself. I have had several mentors who are incredibly experienced individuals with gosses. And there's a funny story there.
Keep it short.
The Frank Beebe story.
Very quickly.
I met Frank Beebe when he was 91 years old.
And he has a book out if you guys want to
He's got
read
a
it.
bunch of books out.
He's very
Bunch.
prominent.
He
Falconry
passed away at the age of 94, and I was always very sad that I didn't get a chance to see him again after the time that I met him. But when I met him at 91, he had a little Harris, he had a beautiful gerfalcon named Blue, and he had a young goss that had been wild trapped for him by someone in the BC Falconry Club. And this was like, I was just months in. Like, this is how,
swear.
this was just, no, well, I will allude to the colorful language that he used, but I won't use it.
Yeah.
He flew Blue for us. We just saw the goss in his mews. He didn't really do anything while we were there. And Blue was fantastic. She was huge, gorgeous, and it was a good name for her. She actually looked. She was a color of sort of slate gray, but she looked sort of bluish, so it was a good name. So in my innocence, I asked Frank. I said, "Oh, what is your goshawk called?" Well, sometimes I call him A-hole, and other times I call him son of a. And once in a while I call and I'm looking at him like this, like.
Oh my goodness.
And he said, "Joe, let me explain." He said, "Goshawks are the best hunting companion you're probably ever going to have. You can hunt just about anything with them. Not deer, of course, but, rabbits, hares, like small hares, pheasant, grouse. There's lots and lots of options for things you can hunt with a goss. But if you're going to lose any bird in your first year, you're going to lose a goss. So until he has stayed with you for that first year and you have found that place of communication with him, don't give him a name. At least he says, I've never done it. Now remember, Frank Beebe got into falconry when he was 40 years old is when he started. So by the time I met him, he'd been at it for 51 years, right?
That's crazy.
So he probably handled a few gosses in his time. Now my understanding is that goss are very challenging. They are hard to win over, to get that trust with. Once you get there, though, what I've heard from people who are experienced goshawk falconers is that they're the best. They're the best. If you're a long-winged person, you're a long-winged person. But if you're a hawk person, a true hawk, an accipiter, if that is your bent, if you're an Austringer, that's the traditional name, then you love goshawks. Now, again, it's one of those things I have mused about. Do I ever want to get a goss? It's my situation would have to be kind of different and very sort of settled and predictable for me to be getting into that side of things. So it might happen later on in life. I would be just as happy to go and have an experience where I go to a center and spend a week or something with people who are really experienced goshawk handlers and, sort of by proxy, get to have some experience in handling time and learn a little bit more about them. But I think they're magnificent. They're beautiful, powerful, self-assured, really intelligent birds of prey for sure.
Definitely. I've never worked with one myself, but it's on my list.
Questions. Brings you back
oh my
questions.
goodness. Do we watch Max Powell's channel? Yes, I have. Let's see here. So, George.
You're welcome for the live stream.
Yeah, definitely. George Ryan. Hi, thanks for the live stream. You're welcome. When you get them to step up in the glove, is it with the glove in front or behind the legs? I've seen both recommended. So I'm assuming what you're meaning is the purchase here. Are you going
reaching
like
up toward them or
this,
reaching
or
around behind?
Front? I mean, we do front.
To the front.
Yes.
The reason for this is, remember, it goes to the same issue of why we don't touch them on the back of the wings. Now, of course, Team Feathers, I have touched them on the back on the wings because when I go to summer camps, as many times as you tell youngsters, young adults, 12, 13, 14, don't pet them like your puppy at home. They want to do that. And the occasional hand comes out and touches them, and you can see Mo going, "Ah, why are you doing this?" But he doesn't really react to it, right? So reaching around behind them and lifting them up that way is going to go to the triggering that is in their wiring of something has snuck up behind me. And frankly, let's walk through this in a logical way, shall we? The bird is there. I'm reaching around. He's new. He decides he doesn't like that. Where's he going to go? Right here, right?
I had one nose job, and I'd like to keep it that way. Yeah.
So, my personal thing, and the only way I have ever seen it in Argentina, when I was down there handling birds, when I've been in the UK, I've never seen anybody reach around from the back and lift them up that way. So
And let us know if we're not...
So you're sweeping the glove this way, guys. So if the feathered one is here, like this, you're sweeping the glove toward them on the perch, right? Sweeping it up, almost like an upside, like a J, basically. So it's this kind of thing. So it's coming up underneath their feet. It's there in front of their feet. Now I am having a conversation with you. I am consenting to step up onto your glove.
Okay. So, excellent. We're going a little far back here. So, getting some more questions.
May I comment here if to
Off
visit
in
a
the
bird prey
chance.
facility?
Oh, okay. So if anybody in the comments has been to a bird of prey facility and you've been able to hold a bird on the glove.
Whoop.
Oh. Someone's yelling in the garden. That means eagles are nearby. Give us 1 second here. I've been connected with the wildlife and said, oh, excellent. All right, we will be right back.